Hey, did you hear that? It's like someone's auditioning for a talent show. Her voice does have that talent show quality, even if her words are a bit hard to make out. But hey, we're curious creatures, so we're gonna snoop around a bit. Who's that mysterious lady belting out notes that only dolphins can understand? Oh, she's being played like a finely tuned organ, and there's a conductor in the mix too, directing the production of this symphony. Ah! Don't you love finely composed music? Let's take a breather. Things are moving pretty fast. How about we rewind a month or so? Let's see where this all began. The scene opens with our protagonist, the fresh-faced Do Hoon, a man who, it seems, has had his fair share of social anxiety. He's going about his business when suddenly a summons arrives from none other than the team leader. Now, you know what they say, when the head honcho calls, you answer. So, with a mix of anticipation and perhaps a touch of nervousness, he heads over to meet with her. As he steps into her office, he can't help but feel a sense of awe. Team leader Lee. So he is not just any leader. She's a talented dynamo who stands out in pretty much every way imaginable. Her presence commands attention, and her achievements speak volumes about her capabilities. In her office, our protagonist starts a conversation with the team leader, who, it seems, has personal boundary issues, pressing herself close to him. Seriously, you don't have to be so close to be heard. She leans in even closer, takes a sniff, and says, "You smell like alcohol." Then she spills the beans about why he got the call. She wants them to team up for a project. She leans in even closer and sneaks a drink into his pocket. "Have that to sober up. I'll be waiting for you in meeting room B," she said. That sure sounds like an invitation. At meeting room B, the conversation continues. "What did you think of our first meeting?" she asks. And he replies, "Well, I mostly sat and listened." Not calling him a liar, but let's just say he did more than that. As they chat, Do Hoon-see's mind starts to wander, and he can't help but fantasize about the captivating woman in front of him. Can't say I blame him. Have you seen the woman? They took the elevator down together. He asked if she was heading to the station, and she replied that her daughter had come to pick her up. She also confessed to him that she'd initially been concerned about how he'd fit in when he joined the company, thinking there might be issues with him fitting in the company, but turned out she didn't need to worry. As they arrived at the lower level, they went their separate ways. Do Hoon-see continued his daydream, but his object of desire seemed far out of reach. It wasn't that he didn't desire her enough, it was the risk of pursuing her that seemed too great. She's his superior at work, and to make matters more complicated, she's also a married woman. Well, a guy can at least dream, right? While he was lost in thought, a lone, mysterious lady caught his attention in the crowd. Who could she be? She seemed lost. Could she be the team leader's daughter? Do Hoon-see moved in closer to help. Surprise, surprise. Who does it turn out to be? Han So-mi, his high school bully. She was the reason he dropped out of school and developed social anxiety. Her constant bullying was nerve-wracking. What is she looking for? Seeing her forced him to relive one of her classic bullying moments when she poured milk on him and asked him to lick her foot while she and her friends laughed on. Talk about a blast from the past. Seeing red, Do Hoon-see reached for her, probably to choke the life out of her, who knows. His intentions were cut short when he saw the team leader approaching. He quickly pulled a disappearing act. Turns out the team leader was quite close to her daughter. They both hugged and exchanged pleasantries before leaving together. Meanwhile, Do Hoon-see seethes behind a wall, wondering why she had to show up now. Fueled by the need for revenge, he's trembling and searching for a way to hurt her back when an idea hits him. She took something precious from him, so why not do the same to her? He's determined now, willing to risk it all because he's found a reason, snatching away something dear to his bully, her mother. It's like a corporate warfare with a dash of romance and a sprinkle of sweet, sweet revenge. The next day, during a coffee break with Do Hoon-see, she found herself unwittingly captivated by his bicep display, the cunning charmer. As she tried to discreetly admire, he suddenly called her out for her blatant gazing. Flustered beyond belief, Lee So-hee clumsily blurted out that his arm looked incredibly fit and strong, emphasis on the arm, of course. When he daringly asked if she wanted to touch it, her equilibrium took a nosedive, and after some hesitation, she caved in and touched it. The sensation of touching his arms stirred in her, memories of how long it had been since she'd been close to a man, snapping back to reality only when Do Hoon Si asked her how it felt. Acting increasingly flustered, she complimented him on his youthful and toned physique, saying he must be popular with the ladies. She couldn't fathom why she was feeling so disoriented or why her heart seemed to have taken up a drumming career. Urging herself to regain composure, she was about to suggest getting back to work when she accidentally spilled coffee directly onto his pants, right on a particular delicate region. Without a second thought, she dropped to her knees with a handkerchief in hand, frantically cleaning up the mess, all the while apologizing profusely. Strangely enough, Do Hoon Si seemed lost in a dream world, seemingly oblivious to her apologies. Lee So-hee's kneeling posture and proximity to his rudder inadvertently suggested a certain, course of action. We're talking about napkin usage here, folks. He couldn't help but indulge in fantasies of when he'd finally have her under his sway. Her daughter had tormented and almost ruined his life and lived hers like she wasn't to blame. He had. It took him years to stitch his broken heart back together and tuck those painful memories away. In his darkest moments, he'd even contemplated committing suicide. All it took was for her to show up for those emotions to come rushing back. So yeah, Do Hoon Si was definitely going to make her mother his. Not like making her his mother, but making her his. You get the point I'm trying to make. Fast forward to the last day of their project together, Do Hoon Si was ready to make his move on Lee So-hee. They were both alone. She was bent over the desk looking for some presentation printouts. Do Hoon Si quietly reached over and turned off the light, probably to set the mood, who knows. "Oh, the lights went out," he said, slick move. "I think it's over here." With that, he took the chance to get close to her from behind. Taking advantage of the knowledge he had about her from working together, knowing that she was responsive to the male body, he brought her face closer to his and, well, you can imagine what happened next. He indulged in a forbidden moment, and trust me, it was quite the experience. Or at least it appeared that way. Lost in the moment, he threw caution to the wind, laying her back and skillfully using his fingers. They seemed to work wonders, creating a symphony of sensations for her. Despite her feeble protests that they shouldn't venture further down this path, just when it seemed they were approaching the point of no return, she suddenly slapped his hands away. "We can't do this," she said. Shocking? I know, right? I thought they've reached the point of no return. Poor Do Hoon Si just stood there looking shocked. Undeterred, Do Hoon Si switched up gears. Well, you're right. It was weird that you were paying special attention to me." He said all this while moving in on her and reaching out to hold her face in his hands. "Don't touch me," she said, slapping his hands away again. "What on earth are you talking about?" But Do Hoon Si switched gears again. Seriously, the mental fortitude of this guy. A book should be written in dedication to his dedication. Just kidding, but yeah, he is pretty determined. This time he picked a pen to seduce her, drawing it down her sensitive spots. But she stops him again, this time with a weaker resolve. This is quickly becoming a game of cat and mouse. Knowing she was on the verge of giving in, she moved to exit the room, but Do Hoon Si stopped her again, pressing her close to the wall. "We still have unfinished business," he said. Her head was in a mess, reeling from the avalanche of emotion assaulting her. He didn't let up. "I'm already aware, that our team leader has been holding back for a while now." What are you talking about?" she replied. "It's okay, to be honest, to have such an erotic body," he said, "and being always defenseless." While he was saying this, he was loosening the buttons of her shirt. When he was done with them, he flung it wide open. This is forcing me. In that sense, it is because of you that I always get an erection," he continued with his monologue, ignoring her feeble protests. And with that, he whipped out his package. And let me tell you something, she was definitely shocked by his size. "Go home and take care of that." She responded to his action. "Well, what are you doing?" Still trying to maintain that composure, are we? Next thing we know, she has crouched down, her eyes on the same level as his belt. It wasn't his belt that caught her attention, obviously. Seems all those talk was just that talk. She goes so far as to compare him with an ex-partner. Things quickly escalated from there. He grabbed her by the hand and placed it on his rudder. With that same determination he displayed earlier, he laid her on the desk and drove into her center, and she lost all form of composure, giving melodies that even the angels would envy. Not one to do things in half measures, he picked her up and drove her straight to heaven, probably even saw a few stars. While he was hitting his stride, Do Hoon decided he wanted to take a little trip down memory lane. He was reminiscing about his early days in the business when he still admired Lee So-hee from afar. She was the kind of boss everyone loved and respected. She seemed to have everything under control and excel at everything. Back to the present, and he can't believe this is the same woman who is now clinging to him like a lifebuoy in a sea of emotions. With his mind fixed on the catalyst that kick-started this whole thing, Han So-mi threw his all into the job at hand, putting in a frenzied pace. And just when things were getting, interesting, a security guard decides to crash their party. Talk about bad timing. Panic mode activated. Do Hoon-see's face says it all, and they both freeze in place like deer caught in headlights, silent as a mouse, hoping they can dodge this bullet. Seems like even in the most, let's say, compromising situations, life has a way of throwing curveballs, or in this case, security guards, into the mix. We will continue this story soon. In the meanwhile, you can choose from this exciting stories. See you there.